that's pretty good. And now we're going to do the same to this rock as we did to this, getting this mix of browns and blues going on back in here. So this part of the rock over here is catching some nice blue shadows in there. Really elegant. You probably can't see this in the video, but if you get up close, you can see where this rock is got some nice shadow shapes going on, and some places where you're getting some lights hitting. And it's this craggy bit of a plateau sticking out here. So I'm going to hit everything with sort of this bluish color. And I can come in later with the darker stuff. So this gives me this. Here's a little bit of a pinkish blue glow over here. So get that in. But essentially we're establishing the structure of this rock here by these marks. And what I'm doing is painting patterns. I'm observing carefully enough to see where the light and shadows collect in these rocks, but not so carefully as to try to paint every crack in the rock. Again, this is sort of a bit player in the grand scheme of things, so just by getting these darker values in is kind of all I really need to do. Just, watch where the patterns are. What are you seeing? And if you get the pattern right and you get the placement of the pattern in the right shape, you're usually pretty good to go. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you don't pay enough attention to see where they go, then things don't look right. So it's kind of critical in that regard. Just, you can edit. You don't have to put everything in, but it's good to get the things in the right place, because the sun's coming from a certain direction, so you need to make sure that that's consistent. All right, so I'm getting this in, and I'm going to come back in here and brighten up some blues just to make it a little more interesting. All right. And next we'll come in. We got to get these rich. There's some really rich dark browns in that rock, almost a purpley brown. So I'm going to get a little burnt sienna and some alizarin. So I'm getting kind of this rich, warm brown into some of this cliff work here. And it's mostly down here at the base of the rock where the water is really hit. You know, the rock always stays wet, and so it gets really dark down here in these parts of the rock. And I'm just going to paint the mass of it in and then come back in with a little filigree with my smaller brush. But for all intents and purposes, the rock gets like really dark down in here. So in general, as things get closer to us, the more intense they become. So in other words, rocks appear darker in places, colors become more vibrant because we're closer to them. You know, this is a phenomenon called aerial perspective. The further things move away from us, the less distinction they have. They get smaller in size, which is evident, but they also get less distinct. And so you have to really take that into account. You can't say, oh, well, this rock here is the same as the rocks way out there. They're not. I mean, they might be made of the same material and have similar shapes, but the ones out there, there's another mile of air between you and that rock, and that air reflects and refracts light, and so in the distance it's much grayer or much less intense in its hue and value. So you have to account for that, you know. And it's mostly, if you trust what your eyes tell you, you'll get it. Most of the time we get into trouble in a painting when we overthink it with our head. You start making those comparisons. Oh, that pine tree is the same as that one over there on that mountain way in the distance, so I'm going to paint them the same. They don't look the same. Don't paint them the same. There are certain visual cues that occur due to distance and other phenomena that's going on. And most of the time, if you just slow down and look at it, you'll see it and it'll make sense.